All right, welcome back. This is our blank slate. All I have is a single MIDI track here, nothing else. So we're starting from the very beginning. First thing I want to do is load some type of sound. Let's do a drum rack. So what I'm going to do is hit Browse, and this is going to pull up our browser. Now this almost exactly mirrors the browser in the software. Everything is there, it's just in a different order. And from here, we can browse sounds, drums, we have the instruments, audio effects, MIDI effects, Max for Live. We can also browse third-party plugins, so audio units and VSTs, and then any type of pack that we might have installed. So as you can see, I can navigate with these encoders. I can also navigate with these arrows over here on the right. So I'm going to find a drum rack. It's called Kit Core Hot Rod. And you notice whenever I select a new preset, I can hear what that preset's going to sound like. That's because preview is on. Now, if that preview is too loud, I can turn it off, or I can adjust the cue volume. If I touch this, we can see that's the master volume. All I have to do is hold Shift, and now this becomes the cue volume. So with that turned down a little bit, I can turn preview back on, and I can now preview my presets. Let's find that Kit Core Hot Rod. There it is. I found my preset. I like the way it sounds. I'm going to hit load. Now we can see this interface. These pads have updated to show that we're working with a drum rack. And this 4x4 grid down here at the bottom right is going to reflect what we see in the drum rack on the software as well. On the top here, we have the step sequencer, and on the bottom right, we have the loop length pads. And we'll get to these two things in the next video. Now, I can play these just like I would with any other MIDI controller or my mouse inside that drum rack. These pads are wonderfully playable. They feel great. But let's say you're not gelling with them. They don't feel as good as you think they should. Well, let's go up to setup. In setup mode, we have a couple different options to deal with velocity. Along with those options, we have a velocity curve that really visually represents what's happening when we turn or change these three parameters. Pad sensitivity is just a general reaction to how hard you play the pad. I can turn it down. Now it takes quite a bit to trigger that pad. Pad gain basically gives us a curve. So here it would take a lot of force to hit that pad to give us a high velocity output from the pad, and the opposite. Barely touch it, we have a lot of velocity output from those pads. Pad dynamics kind of compresses that pad. So here, with it turned up to 10, we'll be getting more of the low and the higher velocities. If I turn this down to 0, we'll be getting a lot of the mid velocities. So make sure you check that out and see what works best for you. I actually like the default with 5 set to all of them. On the left here, we have LED brightness, just the brightness of these pads. And then the display light up at the top. Over here on the left, we have a workflow option between scene and clip, and we'll take a look at that later. We can back out of the setup mode and go back to our device mode here. We can play our kit, figure out an idea, and if we don't like this kit, we can immediately go into hot swap mode by hitting browse, and now we can pick another kit to replace this one. So maybe I want core glass. All I have to do is hit load, and now it's been hot swapped and replaced that kit. Now if I want to preview the next, I can hit load next, load next, And I can just start moving down all of those presets and figure out which one I like the best. I could, of course, hit undo to go back, hit device, and there's my Kit Core Hot Rod preset again. All right, so that's the browser. We'll be using this button quite a bit, and we'll load instruments, we'll load samples, but that's just a general overview of how to use it. In the next video, let's take a look at the drum rack and how to play drums.